Vectorman 2 was released in 1996 for the Sega Genesis, which technically makes this one of the last Sega Genesis games. And you can see Vectorman rocking out in celebration. When this game was released, the PlayStation and Sega Saturn were on the market. Technically, this is one of the strongest offerings on the mighty 16-bit Sega Genesis. Vectorman is a remarkable accomplishment, harnessing the power of blast processing to bring you visuals that look like this. Wow. The question is, does the rest of the game live up to its technical prowess and stunning graphics and art design? Now, I'm a huge fan of the original Vectorman. I think it's remarkable, and maybe it's just me, but I feel like the developers got right to the end of this game and cut it off short since this was released at the tail end of the Genesis life cycle. It's so close to being great, but not quite there. The level designs are awkward and unbalanced, and that's something that really impacts your adventure through the game. For example, the forest levels are way too dark considering how well they've done the rest of the visuals in the game. And level 3, I think, in particular, is enormous, followed up by levels that'll take you 35 seconds later in the game. Also, there's this neat feature in Vectorman 2 where he can sort of absorb other enemy attacks, like Kirby. So you get this great rhino power later in the game, but it only lasts for about 15 seconds, so you can't do much with it. The developers are teasing me. And later in the game, you can play as a tank. Vectorman as a tank. Look how excited he is. But keep in mind, this was following on the heels of Vectorman, one of the most ambitious Sega Genesis releases, and a great game. I like Vectorman 2. I recommend it, just don't expect it to be as good as the original. At least that's my opinion. It's fun to see what the developers were able to pull out of the Genesis so late in its life. Some of the levels are downright remarkable, and I love that one end boss that looks like you're trying to tune an old-fashioned television. The music is fun, and the gameplay is very similar to the original Vectorman. Some of the levels also provide ample opportunities for exploration and collection of all the orbs and additional life containers. Vectorman 2 won't cost you very much. It's actually a pretty affordable game, and you can even find this one on many of the Sega Genesis collections, like Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection. This is one of these series, and a character that I'm sad to see vanish into obscurity, because Vectorman clearly has a lot of potential here. For those of you looking for more challenge, Vectorman 2 is harder than the original. There's numerous scenes where you jump blindly and end up landing on numerous enemies waiting to kill you. Level memorization helps for sure. And I'm playing this on the original Sega Genesis using SCART cables from my friend Rob at retrogamingcables.co.uk, bringing out every bit of detail in Vectorman 2. It's a beautiful game. And don't forget to turn up the volume because it rocks. As far as I know, this was the last of the Vectorman releases. Vectorman's swan song. A good game. With more potential. Maybe he'll return sometime in the future on the Sega 32X. This one is recommended for those of you who are big Genesis and Mega Drive fans. Like me, it's a fun, quirky platformer filled with replay value and some levels worthy of exploration. Keep an eye out for those point multipliers, by the way. If you can get the 10-time multiplier and kill a whole bunch of stuff, you get a lot of extra Vectormen. Vectorman. Perhaps the sequel should be on a vector-based game console. The Vectrex, perhaps? Hunt this one down, and don't forget to play the original first to get the full progression of the Vectorman experience. Classic Game Room has been brought to you by these books on Amazon: Ultramassive Volume 1, Retro Megatrix, How to Make a Video Game Review Show That Doesn't Suck, Ethel, The Cyborg Ninja Jesus, 1 and 2 Pac-Man, Collector's Guide to Definitive Review, and Ultramassive Video Game Console Guide 2 on Amazon. Welcome to the Patreon Lord Carnage Club, being shouted from a turbo volcano. Michael and Ariana Nelson, Ian Shore, Stephen Chucknick, Al Stever, Rick DeBarros, Jason Goy, Andy Schleiss, Sergio Matthias Hergert, Philip Strabenmuller, Jack Stavris, Ohad Kane, Simon Allen, and Sean Zoltek.
And Tiago Pereira dos Santos Silva from Porto, Portugal.